It's Tuesday and it's time for Falcon Focus. Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus, episode number 5 here in season number 3. In segment number 2, we focus on football as they prepare for their homecoming matchup against the St. Norbert College Green Knights. We'll be joined by one of their defensive backs, Josiah McDermott, coming off a 2-interception performance in their win against Eureka on Saturday. But first, we talk triathlon. They're back. They've been a program here at Concordia since 2016. Yannicka Bannick kind enough to join us. She is in her junior season and kind of join us here on Falcon Focus. My name is Matt Menzel. Let's begin for those that may not know, because it's still a relatively new sport to Concordia, what triathlon is.
So triathlon is actually 3 sports at once. We swim, and then we bike, and then we run, all in one race.
Do you have a favorite leg in a particular meet?
Yeah, I like the bike. I did mountain bike team in high school, so for me that's my strength. But we joke about it because everybody on our team has different strengths. So we talk about, like, we wish we could trade a little bit of talent in each of the things to even it out.
Well, I can't wait to talk about your mountain bike experiences, because I did see that in your bio, and I thought that was very unique that was even an offering at the high school level, but we'll talk about that as we go along. Talking about the team, though, and it's a smaller group this year.
It is.
Just 3 total on the roster.
Yeah.
How close are you guys? I mean, being that you get to compete, I guess, with each other, push each other harder. You guys pretty close-knit group?
Yeah. It's great that it's a smaller group. In fact, the first race, we actually stayed at our coach's house because it was nearby. So we got really competitive with the card games, stuff like that. So it's good to have a small group.
What are the advantages and maybe disadvantages to having a smaller group in a sport like this?
Yeah. I mean, the advantage is that it's easier for us to train together, get to know each other better. But the disadvantage is that we can't score at all for team points. We just don't have the right number of people for that. So
you mentioned your head coach, a brand new head coach in triathlon here this school year, and Andrea Hirth. Mm-hmm. You know, in some sports when there's a coaching change, there's an adjustment period. In triathlon, is there an adjustment period with a head coaching change? Is it a smoother transition in a sport like this?
I mean, she's different, but I think, again, because we're such a small team, we were able to really work with her. And she's great. She's super experienced in triathlon. She does Ironmans, so we're in good hands.
You know, when you look at the schedule, the events are spread apart, usually a couple of weeks apart, give or take. But when you prepare for, like this week, you have competition coming up. Mm-hmm. What does a typical, I guess, practice consist of? What does practice week look like in preparation?
So we try to mix it up because it's all the different sports. But, for example, yesterday we had a swim workout. Today's my rest day. Tomorrow I have a bike with the team. Thursday I have a run. Sometimes we'll have a bike and a run. It really just it depends on the day, depends on the week. And then we do adjust based on how our races go. So, like, our last race had a lot of hills, and it kind of killed us all on the hills. So then we did a bunch of hill workouts. So
when you say you swim, where are you swimming at?
We swim open water, so it's not in a pool. It's in a pond or a lake.
Could you potentially swim at Lake Michigan, or is that off limits?
I have personally swum in Lake Michigan. There's a group that goes from Clody Beach.
Okay.
A community group that I've participated in the summers. But we have not done it as a team here. And it is starting to get colder, so.
Well, I was going to ask, okay, so even from a biking standpoint, I'm guessing you're doing the actual biking now, but let's say the weather wasn't, cooperating. Let's say it was pouring rain. Can you simulate that? Do you have the ability to do that? Is that an option?
So we are very fortunate that the school let us have a room in Wittenberg. So we have trainers set up in there. So anytime that there's bad weather, or like tomorrow we're going to do at 6 a.m., so it's not going to be light out yet. we're going to ride on the trainers in Wittenberg, yeah.
You look, and there was no season last school year. There was no triathlon. So how do you keep yourself in shape? How do you keep yourself, I guess, ready to go? In this case, ready for this season with so much time in between, competitions.
Right. So our previous coach, Jeff, we did have a training camp in the spring. So we went down and stayed in Racine for a couple days, and all worked out together. And then during the summers, we get workouts from our coach and ideas of what to work on.
So was it exciting for you personally, September 4th, getting the opportunity at the USA Triathlon Central Region qualifier to just be back out there competing for the first time in a couple of years?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a while, so it was nice to get back out there.
So does it take some getting used to again going out there, or were you ready to go? I mean, did it, after, the practices, preparing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like I wasn't prepared, but it turned out that I was, because we did practice before that, and we did a lot of practice even with transitioning. So that's the in-between of each sport where you have to say, I just got out of the water, now I need to put helmet on and shoes and all that. So we practiced that because that's where you lose a lot of time. So
you mentioned, with a roster of only 3, you can't score any team points, but
right.
Overall, how do you feel that event in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin back on September 4th went for the Falcons?
I think it went pretty good, yeah. It was challenging. One of our members didn't finish just because we were up against some really good teams. There are some athletes on those other teams. There's one girl that we keep saying, like, she should be in D1. So it's very competitive, but I think that we do hold our own. It's a lot of fun.
You mentioned from a practice scheduling standpoint, you got a day to rest,
Yep.
kind of built in. How about after an event? Do you need that recovery time? Do you take a certain amount of time or days off prior to practicing again?
Yeah, we usually take a rest day after a race. But for us, rest days can also mean you go out for an easy workout. Sometimes it feels better to go for a swim after than rest and get super stiff. So
are you one that tends to want to relax, or are you one that tends to want to keep moving in some way, shape, or form?
It depends on whether I have homework to avoid.
Well, you look in next invite, so you competed September 4th, and then for triathlon, next time up, the invite September the 25th, hosted by Milliken. So when you look at practices, we mentioned, the schedule tends to be about 2-3 weeks apart. So let's say it's September, 11th, and that week you're not competing the next weekend. Are practices lighter that week versus, say, the week of an event? Do they intensify, or do you keep it pretty consistent regardless of what's on the calendar?
We work for it.
So then September 25th, you guys are working right away. As soon as September 4th, end of that first event, you guys are working already preparing for September 25th? Like full speed ahead?
Yeah, I mean, like we certainly have rest built in so that we don't get injured or fatigued or whatever, but we're training. We're going for it, and we have nationals in Arizona in November, so we're keeping that in sight.
So how, in your opinion, did things turn out at the Milliken invite?
I felt really great about it. I had one of my best run times I've ever had. All of us finished. It was a beautiful course. So
yeah, that in Decatur, Illinois. And you mentioned, your individual performance. You finished 12th after posting the 10th best time in the bike race. So I'm venturing to guess, based on your answer, you're pleased with the progress you made from the first invite to the next invite?
Yeah, and even from freshman year to now. Yeah.
You went to Shorewood High School, and I wanted to touch base and circle back around to this aspect. You mentioned you were involved in mountain biking on top of swimming. Tell us about the Wisconsin High School Cycling League, which I didn't even know was a thing, but apparently it is. You obviously competed in it and did very well. What is the Wisconsin High School Cycling League?
I seem to have a penchant for picking newer sports. It is a newer sport in Wisconsin. It's separate from any, conferences. It's a statewide thing. So my team I think it's gotten up to 50, 60 people now.
Oh, wow.
We're one of the biggest schools in the state for mountain biking. It's 6th through 12th grade, and it's co-ed, which is really great. So it's a fall sport, which for me, I love triathlon because my 3 sports that I would like to be involved in were swimming, cross country, and mountain biking, all in fall season for girls. So
did most schools, or maybe nowadays most schools are, but did a lot of schools participate? Did they have cycling teams? Do they have mountain biking teams, or is that something that, as you've kind of look back on, it's starting to grow now?
Yeah, I would say it. I mean, it's been steadily growing since its start. It started around when I was in middle school, so it's been steadily growing. MPS has a team, but they're a composite team where they pull from multiple schools. North Shore has a team, but again, it's a composite. They pull from multiple schools. Shorewood is lucky where we have enough people just at our school to have a big team. And then there's a lot of teams up north where there's more trails and such.
I was going to ask, okay, so from a course standpoint, where do you guys compete?
We traveled a lot. I recall we had a race in Waukesha was our home race. And then we actually our championship race 2 of the years that I was on the team was actually at Trek headquarters in Waterloo. That was super cool. They just had cyclocross there this weekend for professionals. So it's
So for you as a Greyhound, what highlights, memories did you have from swimming and from ultimately from mountain biking?
Swimming was a great experience, and they were kind enough to let me do swimming and mountain biking my junior year. Mountain biking was an amazing thing to be a part of. I was a captain for part of that time, and ultimately I just felt very welcomed on that team because there was so many people, so much diversity, and it was co-ed. So even though I was one of the few girls on the team, we had a lot of fun. And because of that, like, us girls kind of stuck together, and that was a good time too. And I've actually gone back as a volunteer as an adult. So like I'm still connected with so many people on the team. The coaching was super positive. I still talk to them, consider them mentors. So
I found that, the mountain biking aspect interesting in your bio. You can read on cwfalcons.com. But I also found this tidbit. It says that your uncle and aunt compete in triathlon.
Yes.
Did they influence you at all in getting involved in this sport?
Absolutely. And yeah, both of my parents are, between the two of them, they have these 3 sports covered of what they did.
Wow.
So, it's definitely something that runs in the family. And for sure, I love talking to my aunt and uncle about triathlon stuff, and they're a great resource.
And I know we talked about what leg of the events do you enjoy most, but overall, what aspects? Why triathlon? Because some would look at that and go, "Man, that's crazy! You put your body through an event like that." But what is it about triathlon that you love so much that keeps you working out and constantly getting that mindset, preparing for each event?
Well, I love that I get to do 3 sports because it means that I'm not shoehorned into just one. Because I do genuinely enjoy all 3 sports. So it's a great opportunity to not have to pick. And then with practices too, it means I'm not running 6 days a week. I'm not biking 6 days a week. I'm not swimming 6 days a week. I have that variety of I'm doing something different every day.
Was triathlon being offered here at Concordia, on top of the fact that you went to Shorewood High School relatively close, were those a couple of the big selling points as to why you came to Concordia?
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely interested in the triathlon team. And then, yeah, it's close to home is great. It's actually worked out really well for my nursing clinicals, too. I go stay at home one night a week because it's closer to one of my sites. So,
Well, you talked about your freshman year, too. That was in 2019 as far as competing in triathlon. And you competed in all 6 events and posted the fastest CUW times at 3 different events. You looked, did the sport come naturally for you just based on your experiences at high school? Did it take some getting used to?
I mean, I think it certainly took some getting used to at the collegiate level, but I had done triathlons before, so it was something that I was somewhat familiar with. And, like, the coaching was great. Jeff did a really great job of getting us up to speed. Yeah.
When you look at the schedule, at least listed, coming up back in action for the USA Triathlon East Region Qualifier coming up on Saturday. I guess what are you anticipating with what could happen Saturday? What are you hoping will happen on Saturday?
Well, I know it's a very hilly course, so I'm hoping that our hill workouts will come in handy. And then I'm really just looking to push the run again. That's my leg that I struggle with. So that's what I want to focus on, and it's the last one, so of course you're tired once you get to that point.
So what goals, overall with just a few events left on the season, what goals do you have for yourself for this year, what is listed as your junior year, but essentially your second year competing?
Yeah. Well, what's great is that we are revisiting courses that we've done before when we were going to Virginia and then nationals in Arizona. So to be able to compare my times is really nice from freshman year. And then really just pushing myself, doing the best I can. Yeah.
Well, Yannicka, I appreciate your time. Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Best of luck the rest of this triathlon season.
Thank you.
And again, you can follow her along with the team, cwfalcons.com. Again, they're back in action coming up on Saturday. And speaking of action, our focus will switch to football when we come back here on Falcon Focus. Josiah McDermott will join us as we talk Falcon football and their matchup against St. Norbert here on cwfalcons.com.
Since 1978, Lutheran Church Extension Fund has had the humble privilege of supporting the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in fulfilling its mission of sharing the gospel.
Thanks to our faithful investors, we provided thousands of church workers, congregations, schools, and organizations with the resources they need to reach more people with the saving name of Christ. It's what we do.
Because our greatest joy comes from seeing LCMS Ministries and her workers thrive, we will continue to make precious resources available, both today and far into the future. It's our promise to you.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund. We want to be part of your great and exciting work.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. Our focus now on football as they prepare for a big one against St. Norbert College. They're all big at this time of the season. Thomasini Stadium, the site. Busy weekend with homecoming, Hall of Fame Day. The newest Hall of Fame class will be inducted, which include the 1990 Falcon football squad. Also family weekend. But the Falcons right now, 5 victories, 1 defeat, 3-1 in conference play. They've rattled off now 3 consecutive wins, and a big part of those victories right next to me, that being senior defensive back Josiah McDermott. You're a true competitor, and you look, last season had to be difficult for you. How difficult was it, not getting the opportunity to be out there with your team in the springtime competing?
It was really hard, but I just took it as a very good learning experience, just to sit back and watch the game and pick apart the opposing teams and just learn from that and grow as a player. But it was really hard mentally sitting there.
Well, you mentioned, from watching and just picking up on some things. What are some of the things that maybe you noticed that is, you've been able to take into this season that has helped you with all the interceptions you've been able to record?
Just quarterback tempos and reads and stuff like that, and if they're a lock-on guy or a look-off guy and what they're doing to the safeties and reading coverages and stuff like that, basically.
And for the Falcons, really across the board, but Concordia hit hard by injury in the springtime, especially on the defensive side of the football, and all of a sudden, guys getting back, healthy defense, making some big-time plays here in 2021. We'll talk about that as we go along, but how pumped were you then to then get back out there, training camp, get yourself ready for this season? How much more, hungry were you after having to sit out for a season?
I was excited. I was ready to go. It was good to be back on the field, see everyone, and fly around.
Well, the best part, too, is you essentially picked up where you left off. I mean, week number 1 against Martin Luther, coming through with your first interception of this season. What do you remember about that pick? Do you remember that pick?
Yeah, I do. I got injured right after that play, but the guy just ran a fade on me, and we were in man-to-man, and it was like a 50-50 ball. I just kind of went up and got it, came down.
Well, the cool thing, too, is, you get a pick against Martin Luther, a big win in week 1 against a quality non-conference opponent. You've also had now a couple of pick sixes here this season. We'll get to that too. But for defensive players, is it fair to say that, obviously for a receiver, for an offensive player, the touchdown is the ultimate. Is an interception on the defensive side, in your opinion, almost equivalent to a touchdown? Is that the goal?
Yeah, they're important. Defensive turnovers are a really big part of winning football games. And if you don't get a lot of them, then football games become a lot harder to win.
And you've been a big part of forcing the turnover. 4 interceptions already this season, 13 now for your Falcon career. So when you get downfield, what are you watching for from the quarterback, from the guy that you're marked up against? How do you put yourself in that position to come through with an interception?
Well, our defense, we're mostly a zone defense, so I pretty much just keep my eyes on the QB at all times, until we call it the long arm. And once that happens, then I just break on the ball and try to make it the best play possible.
Is there some things that certain quarterbacks do without maybe giving out too much, but I mean, is there certain things you see, certain patterns from opposing quarterbacks that you go, man, I know exactly what he's going to do, what he's thinking, because he maybe it's something he does with his hand or his leg. Is there just something that you can pick up on that you can read?
Not really pick up on, but you just got to watch a lot of film, and some people got some sort of tendencies. Like the last team we played, they run RPOs a lot, so that's something to just look at. That's a run-pass option, and you can just pick stuff up like that.
Well, obviously it paid off. He had a couple of interceptions in that last game against the Eureka College Red Devils, but we mentioned you've had a couple of pick sixes, 3 now of those in your Falcon career. The first one this year came at Concordia, Chicago, returned 29 yards for a score. Describe that pick six.
We were just sitting in cover 2. There was a ball fake in the backfield. The wide receiver ran a hitch route, and I just jumped it as well as I could, and the ball ended up right in my arms. And I ran as fast as I could.
Did you know you were going to find the end zone, or did you have to get by a couple other guys before you got there?
I figured once I caught it, I figured I was going to get in there pretty easily.
Well, then last week coming through with a pick six this past game, what happened there?
It was basically the same play. Eureka runs a lot of stick routes. It was 1st and 10, and I think they had a minute left to drive down the field, and the wide receiver ran a route to the sticks, and I just jumped it and didn't have many people to beat there either. Kind of just ran into the end zone.
Well, great win against Eureka. Final score 41-32. That's a team that can put up some points. What was, in your opinion, what was the story on Saturday? What was the key to that victory?
Just playing hard. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest game if you look at it from start to finish, but I think the team just plays hard. We have a really good team this year, from offense to defense and coaching staff as well.
4 interceptions for the team against Eureka this past week. You guys also had 4 interceptions in the game that I think you were out for against Judson in week number 2 after that injury against Martin Luther. But how exciting is it to play with this defense? I guess in your opinion, what makes this defense so effective?
It's designed for just people who are athletic and want to make plays, basically, and they leave it really open for the players. But also the coaching staff really has dedicated themselves to making sure that we're one of the top defenses in the conference.
Now, for you, your focus only here in college has been on the defensive side of the ball, but in high school, a quarterback I read at West Coast Central. So when you go back, I guess, looking back at your prep days from a quarterback perspective, what are some of the performances, maybe some of the opponents, some of the games you had that stand out? What are some of your memories from your prep days?
Probably my junior year, I broke most passing yards in a game on our homecoming game. That was pretty cool. I threw for 314 yards and like 4 touchdowns. So that was a pretty cool memory.
Is there a lot of pressure? Did you put a lot of pressure on yourself being the quarterback, being the leader of the offense at the high school level, knowing that you do carry a lot of weight on those shoulders?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. Quarterback, in my opinion, is probably the hardest position on the field. That and corner, I think, are the 2 hardest positions to play on the field.
Were you playing both sides of the ball
no,
in high
I
school?
Didn't play both sides.
So focus strictly on quarterback.
Yeah.
From a college perspective, then, did you know that you know when you got to the college level that you might switch to the defensive side? How did that come about?
I mean, I kind of had an idea on the back of my head because I wasn't the best QB ever. So I figured at some point I would probably make the switch. But, yeah, I'm happy with it. I like defense. I think I fit in pretty well.
How did you go about preparing to make that switch? How did you go about learning the position?
At first when I made the switch, me and Coach Eder, he made me meet with him like every day in his office and watch film and break down my practices like every single day. And that helped me transition into corner and then getting into the starting rotation and stuff like that.
Well, I saw him play too, but one of your brothers played for Concordia football, from 2011 through 2014. Did you come and watch him play very often here? Did you get the opportunity to see kind of Falcon football before you became a Falcon?
Yeah, I tried to come to as many games as possible with my family, and that was pretty cool.
So did that impact you to want to come to Concordia and play football?
Yeah, it was a pretty big part of it. I knew the coaching staff kind of, sort of. I met them when they used to do a big like banquet dinner meal, and I met them there when they won conference in 2013.
What's it like to play for a coach like Greg Etter, a defensive coordinator, and Adam Walker, a couple of guys, at least, from my perspective, outside looking in, are players' coaches? I mean, they got your guys' back. They have your back. They obviously, put you guys in a great position. They give you the tools to succeed. What's it like to play for a couple of guys like that?
It's a really good time. I enjoy getting coached by both of them. I think me and Coach Walker and Coach Etter have very close relationships. I think we have an understanding of the game that maybe some of the other players don't have, because I've been around for 5 years now. So, it's a really good time. I respect both of them. I think they respect me.
You go back to your first time, at least being on the field for the Falcons back in 2017. You got the opportunity to play in about 3 games. Is that always an adjustment? You go from being, and this goes for any athlete in any sport, you go from, being in high school where you're playing almost every week. Here in college, you're kind of waiting your turn, if you will. And for you, getting used to a new position, does that take some getting used to when you're not out there maybe every play or every game, waiting your turn, waiting your opportunity? Is that a tough adjustment to make, or did you kind of know that might be the case coming in?
I mean, I kind of knew it coming in, but it definitely is a hard adjustment, and it's probably a hard adjustment for a lot of players who come in who played a lot in high school and then come in and have to sit for a year, maybe 2. But, it's definitely hard in my opinion.
You had a breakout season, though, in 2018, named first team all-conference. What do you credit that success to? What was the big change from year 1 to year 2?
I honestly, we put in a new defense in 2017 or 2018, and I credit that, give a lot of credit to the coaching staff. They put together a really good defense, and we've been using it ever since, and it just helps athletes make plays, basically.
And in 2019, you continue that great trend as you have here in 2021, but in 2019 also named a first-team all-conference honoree. Again, what was key for you to just maintain that level of play, that success? How have you been able to maintain that level of play over these last few years?
I just watch a lot of film, really, break down opposing offenses and learn, and just go out there and play, try to have fun as much as possible.
So do you enjoy, I mean, you've mentioned it a couple times, but do you enjoy watching film? Is that a joy during the preparation process?
I mean, I don't enjoy it, but it's something that I got to do.
How much film do you probably watch on one opponent per week?
Probably an hour and a half.
Jeez. And right now you're breaking down the St. Norbert College Green Knights. They're coming off a big win against, I mean, when I say big, margin of victory over Wisconsin Lutheran. Number of turnovers in that game. Wisconsin Lutheran used upwards of 4 different quarterbacks in that game. But right now the Falcons, 5-1, 3-1 in the conference. What are your thoughts on the way the team's playing right now?
We're playing really good. It's exciting. We don't know much about St. Norbert's as they just joined our conference. That's what we're going to install today, our game plan this week. But I think we're playing really good. We're resilient, and that's all that matters. We're winning games.
And I know it's always fun for the guys to play here at Thomas Senior Stadium before the friends and family. Is it easy to get up for a week like this where there's so much going on? It's almost a party within the game itself with homecoming going on. You have Hall of Fame. You got some of the old guys coming back, or older guys, the experienced guys, the veterans, the Hall of Fame day, old football players coming back, family weekend. There's so much going on top of the game itself. Is it easy to get kind of amped up for all that's going on?
Yeah, it's definitely exciting, but we got to make sure we
Stay
know our
focused,
and go out there and win a football game, hopefully.
Does it sometimes get distracted with so much going on?
Yeah, it does. I think people lose focus or
Sure.
get excited and stuff, but that's understandable.
We'll wrap it up by talking about, you mentioned, you don't know a whole heck of a lot at this moment about St. Norbert, but when you just look at the way this team's been winning games, what needs to continue to happen in your opinion? What do you guys have to continue to do if you're to, make a run at the end and fight for that conference championship with the likes of Benedictine and Aurora right now who are atop the NAC standings? What do you have to keep doing? How do you guys keep, how do you put yourself in that position to keep winning?
We just gotta, as a defense, we've just gotta stop them defensively, and our offense needs to score more points than them. I don't know. It's going to be a good game. Any team in this conference can beat anyone. It's Coach Etter says that every week, that nothing's given. Everyone's a good team. There's no team, in my opinion, that's better than the other. If we were to play a series, I think someone would win 3 out of 4.
And I'm thinking you got, 2 pick sixes in you this week?
Hopefully,
Think
something like that.
Well, Josiah, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on with us, and best of luck here this week and going forward. And, again, you can see the Falcons in person, Thomasini Stadium, 1 o'clock, the homecoming game against St. Norbert's. The Falcons look to make it 4 consecutive and, again, continue their climb up the NAC football standings. That'll do it for this week's edition of Falcon Focus. Thanks to all involved behind the scenes. Matt Meadows saying so long and good day. We'll talk to you again next week here on CWFalcons.com.